You also observed the elections. What's your impression of what you saw?
Chamberlain, I have a different opinion with my leader here. There was no election on the rerun in Kano. There was no election. Thugs were being brought in, beat people, killed some, injured some, and wrote sham results and took it to the collation center and announced that Ganduje won. Ganduje won that election, but APC lost Kano. There are audios going around, making the rounds, insulting the president, that he ordered for that he saw what was happening and he didn't talk. I want to seize this opportunity to tell Kano people, my people, that the president, the vice president, they have nothing to do with Kano rerun. There was no election. It was violence all through. The few polling units that were allowed to vote are not enough numbers that were brought to the collation center.
But Mr. Hassan, from what Mr. Panda said, he said if there is any evidence to prove that there were activities of violence, that anyone who had them should bring them forward. Do you have any evidence to prove him wrong?
Yes, Ayo, I have. I have evidences. I have evidences to prove. There are videos making the rounds on WhatsApp. There are audios making the rounds on WhatsApp. I've seen a TVC journalist correspondent that was driven out of a polling unit in Gama. BBC Hausa journalists were driven away. A lot of journalists were driven away from polling units. Strangers came with PVCs and drove the original voters of a certain area and wrote what they wanted to write. There was no election on that rerun. There was no election in Kano.
You said also that...
And I stand with what I say.
Okay.
And I'll tell you how...
Go on.
I'll tell you how we came up with this. Kano has 8,600 polling units. That's 8,600 boxes where people go to vote. A certain commissioner of police, Wakili, who gave us a lot of hopes in the police institution, conducted an election, the presidential election, peacefully and delivered 8,600 polling units. And again, on the 9th of March, he also conducted an election which has to do with the 8,600 polling units in Kano. He conducted them, and suddenly, after a few days, I think 2 days after, a day after or 2 days after, we saw the deputy governor of Kano State and commissioner of local governments at 2:30 a.m. went to a collation center and turned off results of Nasarawa local government. Is that not supposed to be chaotic? A deputy governor of a state doing that? Is that what our party preached? Chamberlain, these guys are not APC. I don't know what party they belong to, but whatever it is, Kano is bigger than the government of Kano.
Okay, Mr. Panda.
We would not support this. We will not support Togri. Ganduje and his people have turned Kano into River State. Let me give you an example. Anybody going to elections today in Kano, for example, if there is even a council election, anybody going to that election must come out with his own talks. What do you think will happen? If the opposition party came out with their own talks, what do you think would have happened? This was the same thing that gave birth to Boko Haram in Borno State. From ECOMOG of SARS to giving them weapons, and now it's Boko Haram. That is what Ganduje is trying to turn Kano into.